it's just like any other system, right? Every system is built from the perspective of here's what most people are going to want that have this question. And whether it's a coach, whether it's a consultant, whether it's a software program, whatever it is, it's a person saying, here's the way that I have gotten from A to B. And a lot of other people like the way that I've gotten from A to B. So you'll probably like how I've gotten from A to B. But the cool part about when you're using AI is that it can learn you.
This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success hey, today, everybody, we're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff. Chat, GPT, answer engines, whatever you want to call them, they've just been going nuts. We've been on and talked about it before, but Rob, every time I turn around, there's a new one, and it makes me want to quit the old one. I just came across one from HubSpot, right? You know, Dharmesh Shah over there is just, he's the CDO. All he does is sit around and come up with stuff. This guy's
I was just on the phone with a guy from HubSpot the other day.
Chat Spot. Chat Spot, right? And it is powerful. I just went and I signed up, of course. And of course and then GPT-4 literally just dropped. So now they're going, okay, this is game changer. And then of course, now you got all the bigs in, right? Everybody's putting, some kind of GPT in their last name, right? But this one I saw from HubSpot, I want to show it here in a second.
Yeah.
Amazing. It has me looking at HubSpot again because he figured out how to literally make it so you can just talk into your mic, ask the question. And this is what I have been waiting for, right? And I know watching some of his stuff from like a year ago, he says, anybody that comes up with this, I'm investing in. And I remember it was like this. He says, so I couldn't wait, right? Let me go ahead and click over here and show it to you. It's incredible. Incredible. So, okay, can you see the screen?
Yeah.
So ChatSpot equals ChatGPT, the power of HubSpot CRM, all in one. And then so he's on there and he's talking about it, but he's saying, look, he found a way to just combine pieces of what people are doing, whether it is pieces of, hey, you go into your software and you do this, but you ask your CRM this through chat, using chat. Then he says, oh, by the way, see that little microphone? This is at the 17-minute mark. I don't want to go too much into it, but at the 17-minute mark, we'll pop it up. But he just says, hey, that little microphone right there, you ask it types in for you. So now you don't even have to type it in. And it's incredible. Let me see if I can pop it up real quick.
Greetings. I'm Dharmesh from HubSpot. I've been getting this question a lot recently from friends and family, which is, have you tried out ChatGPT?
That's it.
And the first thought that pops into my head is, do you even know me? Of course I've tried out ChatGPT, along with 100 million other people. ChatGPT from OpenAI has been the fastest growing product ever, going from 0 to 100 million users in just 2 months. Now, I'm even more excited than the average person about ChatGPT. And the reason is it makes possible something I've been obsessed with and passionate about forever, which is Chat UX. Chat UX is the ability to put a natural language chat interface on software. So traditionally, when we build software, we take what engineers would call an imperative approach. You go through this kind of step-by-step process. The user clicks here, drags there, clicks that, touches this, swipes that. At the end of a series of steps, they get the outcome they were looking for, which is, let's say, a report. Now, with the power of a generative AI and ChatGPT, we can take a declarative approach. So we can just say, as humans, here's the thing I want. AI does all the work, and we just get the outcome we were looking for. We can kind of skip to the end.
So, Rob, think about that for a minute. We can just skip to the end.
Exactly. It's all about getting it there quicker. And I think that the interesting thing about it is while it's going to get it wrong sometimes, it's also going to get it right a whole bunch of the times. And the fact that it's constantly learning is it's just like any other system, right? Every system is built from the perspective of here's what most people are going to want that have this question. And whether it's a coach, whether it's a consultant, whether it's a software program, whatever it is, it's a person saying, here's the way that I have gotten from A to B. And a lot of other people like the way that I've gotten from A to B. So you'll probably like how I've gotten from A to B. But the cool part about when you're using AI is that it can learn you. And so
Yeah.
even if everybody else likes to go, likes to have, what is it? Likes to have ranch dressing on their salad. We can learn that you like Italian. And so it'll always offer you, Italian and ranch instead of just ranch.
Yeah. It's incredible, man. And if you notice how he says, now I look at this and I go, okay, they're a great company, right? HubSpot's making a gazillion dollars, but this could be the company that it becomes.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, and then I had happened to be looking at some of the Innovator's Dilemma, that old book, Christensen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about this when I saw some of the stuff that Dharmesh was doing. That's that bolt-on idea, right? So the dilemma was, hey, you've got something that's very innovative, but you're trying to bolt it on. And that was the dilemma part, right? I literally was sitting there, and I remember reading this book maybe once or twice when I was younger, and I didn't get it all the way. I kept saying, what is the dilemma? Well, the dilemma is you're not looking at this thing as a single opportunity. You're literally saying, and how does it relate to what we already do? Oh, it can make us $100 million, but we're a $10 billion company. So the value prop then to this new thing you thought of, Kodak, what is digital? We invented digital. Yeah, but what does that have to do with what we do? Somebody couldn't see it, but then some standalone company sees it and goes, it's everything for us. Mm-hmm. Right. So I thought about this when I saw ChatSpot, and I says, man, this to me is standalone versus, oh, and by the way, you can use it with HubSpot CRM. Right.
And I think that I agree with you, but I think that one of the places, and this is where the people miss a lot of times, like Kodak example is a perfect example. It's not bolt on as much as it is funnel or feeder or pipeline.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So what a lot of companies miss is they don't understand, and you're a Jay Abraham fan like me, right? Mm-hmm. They don't understand lifetime value of the customer. So while this one business can be a standalone single sale or single operation, the fact that this one business can be a standalone single sale, but it can also funnel people because you get the know, like, and trust with this. And now you get the affiliate factor to all of your other businesses. You just reduce cost of customer acquisition for your major businesses because you're making money acquiring customers over here for a cheaper rate. And now you're actually sending them over here and making money. And that's what a lot of businesses don't see is why do they spend $100 million with Ja Morant for Powerade or for Nike? They spend $100 million with Ja Morant because if Nike had to run ads to go get the same customers that are going to go buy Ja Morant shoes, they would spend $200 million.
Yeah.
And so they figured out if we give him 100, we get the same sales for half the price.
Yeah. Man,
I think what's coming up here.
This is interesting too. When we have these conversations, when y'all seeing this, hey, y'all like what we're talking about here, subscribe, send it over to folks. I want you to be able to send it to people and says, hey, you got to hear it just like I'm doing here. I'm saying, and that 17-minute mark. Now watch it all, but that 17-minute mark is amazing, right? Kind of a thing. Do it for us. Do it with us. Because we really want to grow what we're talking about, grow our channel and all that kind of stuff. And we hadn't been doing a lot of that. Let's be honest. It's like, hey, we get on, we talk because we're interested in business and trying to help you. And we'd say, hey, come listen in. But now we're saying, hey, listen, send this to somebody because of this piece right here. So I was listening to somebody talking about NFL stuff. You talked about not understanding the lifetime value of a thing, right? And this one guy says, look, if I'm a running back, this is how he put it. If I'm a running back, he says, first things first, he says, take the money. He said, because running backs aren't being valued as much. What's being valued is the quarterback that runs. What's also being valued is, and then he even suggested, he says, if you're a parent out there, don't send your kid to be the running back now. He says, try to make him a quarterback, try to get him as a wide receiver. He said, because that's being valued more. And then he starts talking about the reason why. And it's something that I had in my mind when I heard about what college was doing, being able to pay athletes now, right? What do they call it? Name, image, likeness,
Yeah,
NIL.
NIL. Yep.
So I said, Rob, I says, this right here is going to be fantastic. This will probably start getting a more mature person coming out because they'll stay in college longer. Because think about it, y'all. If you can make 500 grand, a million in college, you're not racing to get out of college and into the pros now. You stick around.
Yeah.
Right. And
You
then
want to develop.
you're starting to see it. Hey, I can make this much as an okay player. Now I get my chips. I don't have to like guess whether or not I'm gonna get into the first round. Now, if I'm a running back, I'm staying in college because hey, the value now is not so great on running backs. If whatever it is, that's going to help the NFL in one sense, right? And because they're going to get that more mature person, and it's going to help your pocketbooks because now in college you can make a lot of money. So
Right.
hey, fifth year seniors, 6-year seniors,
Yeah.
Winky, what was that one guy, that quarterback that came
Chris
out of
Winky.
Florida? Chris
Yep.
Winky.
Yeah, 29-year-old national champion winner. Right. Yeah, yeah. That one still bothers me. I'll tell you my story about having my eligibility run up when I was in college, and I didn't play while I was in college, but I still was out of eligibility. And I was looking at this guy. I'm like, I'm 21 and I have no eligibility, but this guy's 29 and he has
This guy
eligibility.
is
What's going on?
30. So my
Yeah,
point becomes,
and he
uh,
played Major League Baseball.
you know, but this is what, when we start thinking about um, how we look at all of these systems and all of these things that are designed to help us. I've already made money from it. Literally, I've made money doing videos on it. I've made money being able to have a new narrative, and it's extremely seductive, y'all. When you go over and you start messing around with the chat GPTs and not just chat GPTs, but the answer engines, right? I heard someone say that answer engines, SEO. Now you start thinking about what can you talk about relative to optimization instead of figuring out how to be a SEOist, which was huge and big, right? Because it used the internet still. Why not become an answer engine optimization person, right? All these different shifts start making sense. So get this, Rob. I do a newsletter, a monthly newsletter for an organization, actually. And in it, this month, I says, this is how I labeled it. I says, AI ain't playing, right? And then it says, then I go into the quote, between 25 and it had been 75, but 85 million jobs by 2025, y'all, will be lost due to these generative AIs. Let's just call them. Nobody knows what generative AI is. Let's just say these AIs. 25 to 85 million dollars. Now, Rob and I, when it first came out, we talked a little bit about this.
Yeah.
We want y'all to hear it again, right? We want you to give us a call because the work that we do is on Rob's side, he's dealing with leaders that are now going to have to deal with this. Right? I consult with everybody about all kinds of things. I've been talking a lot to a lot of people in the DEI space. I says, is this thing woke? Is this thing not equitable? You should be talking about. I'm sending messages, notes saying, are you spinning this up? Saying, is chat GPTs of the world, the answer engines, equitable, inclusive? This is the work that you're doing. Because the media is just messing their business model up, right?
Well, I mean, and I mean a lot of it, and this is the funny thing about that business model, right? Because you got the woke crowd and you got everything else, but there's a in this space, one of the things that everybody has to deal with, right? We get to create straw man and arguments that say, um, here is the world that as it exists, and I'm going to
Mhm.
fix this world. And so my solution works for this world, but that works if the world that you're talking about actually exists. If the world that you're talking about doesn't actually exist, then your solution doesn't actually work. And that is across the board, from business tycoons down to activists and the soccer moms on picket lines. It doesn't matter where you are in the spectrum. The whole idea is, so often we create solutions for a world that doesn't exist. Like, for
Ooh,
example, the conversation of ChatGPT killing a bunch of jobs. I love the conversation. I love the idea that it's going to kill jobs. But that conversation always happens in this vacuum of that jobs are actually destroyed and nothing
sure.
else happens, right?
Right. Sure. Yeah.
It
I love
goes back
that.
to, Newtonian physics, right? Energy is neither created nor destroyed, it is only transformed. So when
Good
jobs
point.
move from one space to another space, one of the things that happens, or when jobs disappear in one space, one of the things that happens is jobs are created somewhere
Right.
else.
You're exactly right. Prompt people. I have started thinking about this. I sit and I think with these things quite a bit, right? I sit with these things and I think about them. And I remember I said, well, what could we, if I went on Craigslist today and I said, here's what I do. I was telling a couple people this, right? I says, go on, and this was early on, y'all. This already happened. So time is caught up with this conversation. But I says, go on and says, you know how to ask the right question. I didn't see a lot of videos at that time on how to be a great prompter. And now you're seeing jobs for being, because like you said once, these are still going to need to get stuff done.
Exactly.
Right? They're not going to go, hey, I got this tool, I'll do it. No.
Yeah.
But Rob, I saw something that came in some of my newsletters, right? And it says, should we get this question? Should we replace leaders with AI?
Right. I love the question. And
Should we replace leaders? And they gave an
right.
example. It was
Yeah,
powerful.
they could. And here's the funny thing. And here's the interesting thing. Could we replace leaders with AI? Impossible. Should we replace managers with AI? Definitely possible. Right. And here's the reason why it's possible versus the AI. One of the things that people don't understand about leadership, and where they conflate the two, is that a lot of people think that leadership is managing. It's not. It's not checking the boxes and making sure that all the paperwork is done and all. Every study that you see of world-class organizations, leaders spend less than 40% of their time doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the work that you could actually automate and put in a lot of the work that I do. It's either automated or delegated. So I spend even less of my time doing that, because the majority of the work, the majority of the time that you're working on, that you're doing, you're actually coaching, you're developing, you're supporting, you're training, you're helping. And you show me an AI that can do that, then we'll talk. But the reason why it's such a difficult thing is because you're having to consider so many different inputs. You're
Yeah.
having to, in real time, when you're leading and when you're coaching someone, you have to be analyzing not just information, but information about the person and how it's reacting with them. You have to be analyzing what is going on with people's background, what is the baggage that they're bringing to the situation, all of these different types of things, and that's happening in real time. So, and more importantly, there's an energetic transfer in leadership as well in the greatest leaders. But I'm 100% convinced that all the management stuff, all of the making sure that this matches with this and checking this, and like a lot of accountancy, um, a lot of checking timesheets and all that type of stuff that managers do, that really is just keeping people in line. Yeah, that stuff can be automated
Yeah.
very well, and it's already been automated in many of the companies that are world class. The rest
This
of the
is
world is catching up to it, but there's all
it,
types of systems that exist already.
yeah, and that interesting part about all of that, everyone, is that in this particular case, I think it was a Hong Kong company, and they just basically says, well, what does our leader do? And then they says, well, let's get this AI. They ran it kind of like, they saw that there was no dip in the stock price, that in fact
Mhm.
the AI had it up and they never had to pay it a dime. It never happened. All these different factors, right? Now you,
Yeah.
of course, are going to have people doing this. So it becomes a question of, as I see it, right? And then Rob is in this space, but leaders versus AI or leadership AI. Here's a title. Try this title on leadership AI. Right.
Yeah.
I guarantee you if I went to GoDaddy or Namecheap and tried to get that, it'll be
It's
gone.
already gone. Yeah.
I guarantee you.
I think that I love the idea.
AI attorney's gone.
Because it
Lawyer
right.
AI is gone.
Yes. I love the
MD,
idea
AI
though.
MD is
And
gone.
here's the reason why I like it. I love the idea because it would like that example that you talked about, the Hong Kong company that took that person. Like, for example, there's people that lead companies like hedge fund managers. AI will win all day, every day against a hedge fund manager, right? Because most hedge fund managers, only 4% of fund managers beat the market.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha.
Just right. So in looking at that and figuring that out, right? The thing that I think will be really interesting to see is when you put different leaders in different places and you see, right, if you have an AI versus you have this other stuff, there's two things that I would be interested in. First thing would be, what are the questions that they're putting into the AI? What are the things that leader is doing that they're sending to the AI?
Sure. Yeah.
That'll be the first thing that would be really interesting. The second thing that would be really interesting is to look at what are the types of leaders that are easily replaceable by AI, and what are the types of leaders that stock prices dip, that morale goes, that people leave, all the rest of that type of stuff. It would be really interesting to see, because I think that my hypothesis in this space is the organizations that have culture are the ones that have good culture are the ones that will be most difficult for an AI to jump into the
Yeah.
space of, because all of the stuff that you would give the AI, the leader has already delegated.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. And again, I think it's relative to now we're starting to see how they're bolting on the power of AI. I think this is the interesting part and why I love being in spaces like this when things are changing, things are new. Sometimes it's because some of the ideas that I may have had mothballed are spin upable now because I go like one of my citizen CEOs, right? I can spin that up and just talk about, hey, using AI and automation to create, and it hits my tagline perfectly. Ordinary people creating extraordinary businesses. That when I originally came up with this 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, right? It didn't have a spot. It was like, what does this mean? Then we had the immigration situation and people trying to send people back. And I was like, people are going to think that maybe has something to do with that. And I thought, no, maybe. So now I'm like, boom, citizen CEOs, ordinary people starting or creating extraordinary businesses with AI. See, now I'm seeing a place for it.
Yeah.
And so when people are bolting on the power of this thing, just like what we saw Dharmesh do, right? And why he's just like, over the moon. I want to show another clip too here in a sec.
Yeah.
He's over the moon because you're starting to see how the power of one, because we've had AI a minute, right? Come on. We've seen it in play. We used to ask Siri. We used to ask even OnStar. It would do stuff. Hey, are you okay? Well, that was a person, but still, we've seen this thing working now.
Yeah.
And I was looking at a podcast the other day, and the guy says, look, if they put AI in the name, just stop, right? He says, it should be to where we don't know it's working for us. We just know something's working. And it is, of course, in the background, it's AI and all that kind of stuff. He says, but you don't have to name it. You just have to provide utility.
Yeah. Well, the
right?
funny
Does
thing is,
this
because a lot
work?
of these now have the .ai.
Yeah. www dot something AI dot AI.
Exactly.
Yeah. A lot of my software .ai. I'm like, okay, I get it. That becomes our question to everyone out there that's listening. How are we leveraging it? How are we using it? And I came across some old software that I had, and I said, I had it a year. And so they got in here something that they're putting as beta. AI is such and such, right? Okay, I get it. And then I started looking at what they were doing anyway. I said, wow, man, I had been ahead of the curve for over a year, long before OpenAI did their thing, because they were using pieces of it that had been given to them because the AI folks needed it to learn. So they were just releasing it. Right now, of course, OpenAI is charging you a couple of bucks, right? But like $20 a month to get the pro version. But they had released it a long time before that, so they can get it to learn, so they can give it to people and have creative people come up with stuff. So I asked myself a question. I says, how can you do your business like that? How can you be the OpenAI, take the OpenAI approach, right? What is it that you have that you can say, hey, try this? And then people get so hooked on it and love it. And then you can come back and go, can we get $20 for this? Right? Can we charge you now? Now,
Yeah.
some people are saying with OpenAI, I'll be more than happy to. It's like I am with Amazon. What? You get how much a year? No problem.
No
Just
problem.
don't go above a certain amount.
Exactly.
Right? Because I want my stuff every,
In 2 days or
less
one
than 2
day.
days.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now,
Yes.
man,
Yeah.
I'm asking that same question of whatever I'm
Right.
doing. Why are you so slow? I literally am going, hey, what's going on here? Where's your AI? My
Now
expectations
it
are
makes
starting to
sense.
change now.
That's the key. That's the thing. I was just talking. I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about, how we were in a group meeting that, we were doing a hybrid meeting. So there was some people in the room, but then there was also people virtual, and we were cracking up because, we were having trouble with connectivity and everything. And I'm like, what's crazy is 10 years ago, you couldn't even have this meeting.
Exactly. And we're going, I don't understand what's happening. I'm frustrated by that. It's like, man, what's wrong with
Right.
your stuff? Are you using Google
Right.
Meets? What's going on?
Right.
Google
Like
Meets has been pretty good, but that Microsoft one,
I haven't even, yeah, yeah. Oh, you talking about Teams? Yeah,
oh my gosh.
it's interesting. But you were gonna play another clip, so
Yeah, it is. Let's take a look at this one, everyone. This one right here is going to be from the 17-minute mark. Is when my mouth just opened wide and it made me start thinking about HubSpot again. Okay, so over here. Okay, so now this is where he incorporated DALL-E, because this does more. He didn't put it on this thing, but it incorporates more.
Generate image. We're going to generate an image of a retro phone. And the reason is I'm trying to draw this contrast between the cutting edge, which is generative AI, and classic old school phones, and Instagram is a phone photo taking app. All right. So I came back with this nice image of a retro phone. Now you'll notice that this is in kind of like a pencil sketch style. And you might be wondering, well, why is it? Why did it pick that of all the possible things it could have picked? And the reason is in ChatSpot, we have this visual style library, right? So we have a bunch of different styles. These are all images of John Lennon. I'm a John Lennon fan. And we can pick them. So the one we just have highlighted, that's the one I'm currently doing, is pencil drawing. But let's say we change that. Let's say, just for fun, we want to do a Salvador Dali style image. So we pick that, go back, and I'm going to resubmit that same prompt, which I can do by clicking on the edit icon and then just hitting the send. And so now we're going to get an image of a retro phone done in the style of Salvador Dali. We can click on that image, we can see, and that's pretty good, I'd say, as far as a Dali style image. All right. So let's say we tinker with that and we can regenerate the image as many times as we want. We can provide more kind of guidance to what kind of image we want to become a different visual style. But let's say now we're happy with this image. With one button click, I can say add to the recent blog post. It knows what blog post we were working on. It adds it. I can view it in HubSpot. And now we can see our article, The Impact of Generative AI on Instagram Marketing, with a Salvador Dali style image of a retro phone. Okay.
just took
I have
away
just
your
one more
graphic
thing.
designer.
I did not plan this. This is something I just literally just got done. The cool thing I want to show you is this little microphone right here. So let me just show you.
Excuse me.
Create a report of companies added in Q4 summarized by industry. There you have it, folks. Not only can you chat, you can now actually talk to your CRM. All right, now I'm done for the demo. Thanks. That's a whirlwind tour of ChatSpot, and we were only able to really cover about 10% of what the application can do. So
Wow.
If you're listening to this and your mouth is not wide open and
Yeah.
you're not looking at like, okay, what just happened? So, because
Yeah.
I had been thinking, man, why do I gotta type stuff in? This is garbage, right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, because that's what they used to do, to get answers, you type in stuff.
Yeah.
So they just came up with a way to just talk to it. Now we've done this in some of the ways I can write books really, really fast. It's because I'll talk to and then but now it's basically saying, hey, do this. And he's saying, hey, this is what we're working on.
This is
I
what we're
signed
doing.
up.
And
I
I
signed up. It
love it.
says,
I love the
send me when
idea.
it's ready.
Right. Now I'm on the same. They're not even on beta. They like we're on alpha. But
Yeah.
I'm looking at it now. But the thing that's
10% of
really
what it can
cool,
do. Did you notice that? Hey, this is
yeah,
only 10%. I just want to show you a little bit of snippet. And we're sitting over
the
there going,
thing, yeah, the thing that's really cool about this is I think, you know, as you look at for business owners especially, there's so much stuff, right? I remember the first Iron Man movie when Tony's talking to Jarvis and
yeah.
he's, doing everything and moving stuff and especially and more importantly, you know, maybe it was either Iron Man 3 or it was one of the Avengers movies or whatever. Like when he's in his lab and he's like, Jarvis, make this and do this, and then he's moving stuff and like the whole thing. I remember thinking about like that would be really cool. That would be awesome, blah blah blah. And we're getting to the point technologically where those things that we thought would be cool that we would never be able to do are literally we've got the technology to do them. And it's going and this goes back to that point about, jobs being killed. I think what so many people focus on is, you know, whether or not there are jobs, because we have
Mm-hmm.
been brought up to think that we're supposed to go get a job.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's one thing, for this audience especially that I want to, encourage people to and applaud people for is aspire to be job creators rather than job takers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because there's a cycle of this. You may have a job at one point in time, but your whole thing is if you think you can do it better, if you can think you can do it cheaper, if you can think you can do it faster, great. Serve people, create those jobs, create the job for yourself first, but then create jobs for other people because you're scaling doing that work. But always when you have people that are working for you, unless their only goal is to get a job, inspire them to be job creators as well.
Man, that's so powerful. I was listening to these two guys go back and forth. One guy was anti AI. He says, I think it's a joke. He says people ought to go mow the grass, touch the grass, or something like that, right?
Mhm.
And he said, but then later on, he talked about what he looks for in leaders. He says this is one of the things that could tell whether or not you're going to be a great leader or something to that effect. And he says, can you, as that person, inspire 10 other people? Now I'm messing up, this is not verbatim on the quote, but he says, can you inspire 10 other people or 100 other people? What is it that you do basically as that person, that leader, that whatever, to then be better, right? And I started thinking about my own leadership style, and I constantly find myself trying that. It's like, hey, let me show
Mhm.
you this, right? Let me show you this
Mhm.
so that you can be better at what you do. It's what I do with, monetize your life and all the stuff that I talk about there. Can I show you this?
Mhm.
So that way you become, it doesn't matter what's coming, you find the means by which to use it.
Exactly.
That is the power, everybody. When you listen to us, we're always talking about, hey, take a look at this. Here's how to leverage it. Now, we don't want to just hit you with here's what's coming. We want to say, and here's how you can use it. Now, individually, we got
Exactly.
our own businesses. Whether we're coaching, consulting, or talking with leaders like Rob does,
Mhm.
but hear us and see the opportunities, call us, and we'll show you how to make money from it, how to lean out your business in a way so that it makes more money, right? And
Mhm.
one, two, not be scared of it.
Mhm.
Don't be scared. Be inspired. I was
Exactly.
sending this, of course, I send this out to people all the time. I'm sending quotes, I'm sending messages, and one guy just came back and says, "Man, every day something new is coming out, and it's overwhelming me." Literally, that's how he put it. It's overwhelming me. And I says, "Don't be overwhelmed. Let's overwork in this area." Right? Of course, using some Grant Cardone. I said, "Let's overwork and get ahead of it and create narrative around it." I actually tried to partner up with the guy, and I says, "Hey man, let's partner up. You're excited about this, that, and the other. You actually are in there using it." I says, "Let's come in and talk a lot about this a little bit, right? And create some, not content." I said, "Let's create some stuff, some paper, some reports," because that's what he's into. Papers, reports, and just send it out there for sale or download or whatever it is. And then that's the one that came back and says, "Man, I'm so overwhelmed. Every day I turn around, something new is coming out and makes me want to quit the old stuff." Anyway, hey, everyone, this is what we wanted to talk with you about today. Chat SEO versus AEO, right? Or in other words, search engine optimization versus answer engine optimization, right? You hear what they call AI, this generative AI. Look that up. What that has to do with long-term value of customers. How can you use it to create long-term value? Right? Here's another thing that your organization is offering your clients, and they're going to go, "Oh, this is awesome." And so are you. I'll send you more money. Right? Yeah. And then we explored the idea, should we replace lawyers? Or not lawyers, but should we replace leaders? I tried to find say attorney AI, anything lawyer AI, gone.
Yep.
Try to get that name and hold on to it. And then I wanted to touch on really, really quickly, man, in 5 minutes, Silicon Valley Bank. Now, this is kind of old news now, but my goodness gracious, it blew up and almost another catastrophe. People start looking at their banks. I started looking at my credit union going, "Y'all good?"
Yeah. And at the end of the day, the interesting thing about it, you hear all the hubbub and all the rest of it, but I look at it from this perspective. In anything that we're doing, it's about consumer confidence. The reason the dollar is what the dollar is because everybody believes that America will pay its debts. The reason that you can go to the bank and pull out money or deposit your check or whatever is because of the relationships that system is built upon. And this is where I think, the people that try to make this stuff seem easy do a disservice to the conversation, because one of my mentors says it all the time. He says, business is about relationships. And when you try to reduce relationships down to group identity, or when you try to reduce relationships down to idiosyncrasies or whatever the case may be, you miss the forest for the trees, if you would. That bank failing had everything to do with not what their practices were, because their practices were in line with everything else was going on. It had to do with people getting scared that their money wasn't safe. They actually had enough money to do what they needed to do. What no bank can survive is a run on the bank. Because here's the reality of banking, just for anybody that doesn't know. Banks are only required to keep 10% of their deposits on the premises.
And if it goes below that.
Right, which means that any bank at any time, if everybody went to get their money from the bank would not have their money. Because the way banks make money is that they take the 90% that they can do something with, and they loan it out to go make more money. So there's only 10% of deposits ever there. So simple example, if there's a bank that's got $1 million worth of deposits from 100 people, right? So it's got $100 million. It's only going to have $10 million in the bank at any one time. Right. Because $90 million is going to be out doing something, right? That's Chase. That's what is it? Bank of America. That pick whatever, Wells Fargo, pick whatever bank you want to. That's how the banks work. So that's the first thing that everybody has to understand. Problem comes into play when the bank is doing stuff that doesn't maintain consumer confidence. So that everybody wants to go get their money back. Because when that happens, it doesn't matter what bank you're talking about, it's going to be in trouble.
Yes.
And then the after effect is everybody's going to try to be like, well, they were doing this wrong or they were doing that wrong. And, you hear
It's
about
a
it.
woke bank. I
Right.
heard
And
that when I
basically,
was like, what is that?
right.
It's a
Exactly.
woke bank.
Right.
No.
And basically what happened is two things happened in that bank if you dig into the notes. Number one, because of the accounting practices of the bank, what was on their books just a year before Jerome Powell started increasing interest
They
rates
made a
was
bad bet.
different, right? And it's not even a bad bet as much as it is they didn't hedge the bet as things started happening. And here's the
Good
reason
point.
why they didn't hedge the bet. Person whose job it was to hedge the bet. Here's business and turnover and HR 101. Their chief risk management officer, who is the person that when stuff starts happening in the economy, their job is to make sure that the bank is covered from what's happening in the economy. Guess what happened? That person quit almost a year ago.
Mm.
They had not filled that spot yet. And
Leadership.
while they did it, right, and not even so much leadership, right? Like yes, it all falls down. So to be clear, it all falls down to leadership. But these are the inherent risks of business. When one person leaves, if you don't have a pipeline, if you don't have next up type of a mentality, you're going to have a gap. And that gap became catastrophic for them because that gap was the exact same gap when interest rates went up and inflation went up. And so moved the market away from what was a safe bet. They had bonds and they were making good money on these bonds.
Mm-hmm.
But because the interest rates went up and the mortgages went up, the money that they were making on the bonds went where it was making more money over here. And for 8 months, if you're losing that much money, this is what happens. Because there
Man,
wasn't a person in place to man that portion, right? That's how the problem wound up. It's one person's job.
isn't
And
that
if you don't have
incredible?
the redundancies in place, if you don't have those things, and what most businesses don't do, right? This is what I do when I go into businesses. This is basically what I do. What most businesses do is they have people who are responsible for things instead of systems that are responsible for things, so that if the people are gone, the system can still work.
Ooh, that's a part. See, now, did y'all just hear that? Rob does this kind of work. And if I'm Rob, I'm out there just, I'm talking about this for the next week. I would have, this kind of old now, but still, this is the work. I personally, Rob, if I'm you, I'm spinning up something that is out there attracting people to have me talk to them more about this because I think your experiences, the fact that you were, that you were a lawyer, the fact that you were, leader, that's where all of that comes into play. And the fact that you now have a consultancy that does a specific thing. I personally believe this run on the bank is a way in for you to have conversation, not chasing the new thing, but to reiterate the old thing that you've been saying. Leadership, and as it relates to leadership and not having a system in place, which I help them do, is why this happened. Yeah. Is your company vulnerable to SVP calamity or something like that? And that's what I would literally have my little salespeople out there talking about. Yep. And then saying, let's solve this today.
Yeah.
Right. And somebody's going to be looking at it and says, maybe we need to have this guy come in and look at our situation to tell. And then you're in.
Yeah, and no, I agree with you. I agree with you 110%. We're in talks right now. I'm working with a couple of different businesses that have some things, but basically what you're speaking is the space that we're in. We're about to be launching something here in the next couple of months
and fast, Rob. I'm serious. Mm-hmm. You're so nimble in what you do. It's kind of like when we talk about the 4 T's, 4+1 T's of on what you should do for your YouTube channel, right? You should trend, topic, title, thumbnail, timing, right? Trends, bam, you can jump on that, right? Topic, boom, right? What are we talking about right now? And then timing. If you got just those 3 right.
Yep.
Anyway, all right, everybody.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
That's all I want to talk about. That is awesome, the show, boss. Y'all.
Great time.